Hello, this is Margaret Fette from the University of Sewing at the Tailored Fit, and today I'm going to show you how to do a rolled hem. A rolled hem, or a baby rolled hem is what we call it here at the alteration tailoring part of our business, looks very much like this, where we have a small tiny hem that is top stitched. And most people look at this kind of a hem and say, oh, that's so hard to do, and they can't figure out how they do it, but it actually is a really simple hem to do. And so I thought I would show you how to do it, and hopefully you can go back home and try this out. And if you need to, go ahead and ask me questions, and I'll go ahead and answer them if I can. I also can do a Zoom chat with you if you're really having a struggle. So first of all, we've got to start off with what we're going to hem. And today what we're going to do is just work on a small piece of cotton, because that's an easy place to start. And as we all know, cotton's a whole lot easier to work with than, say, something like this satin. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a mark where we want our hem to end. And make sure you have some fabric below where you're going to hem. So you don't want to do this right on the edge of the fabric. You want to have about an inch or more that you can fold up. So what we've done is we've marked about an inch from the edge of our fabric, and then we've pressed it up. So it's that simple. All I did was press it up on that mark. The final hem is actually going to be turned up like this and be stitched right there, but I'll show you that in a minute. So we have this folded up piece of fabric, and we are going to set up our sewing machine. And this is probably the most important part of the setup. If you don't have any choices in feet, you can use a regular number 1 foot. But if you have choices, I'd recommend that you change out your foot. Either use something like this open-toed foot where you can see everything that you're doing. Notice it doesn't have that piece of metal like our number 1 foot does in the front right there. See how that's in there? And it really blocks what you can see. So a number 20 foot or an open-toed foot, good choices. But ultimately, if you have it, I have a foot with a guide on it. So this is a number 5 foot for Berninas. So if you have a number 5 foot, which most of the machines come with, but what we have to do, we're going to set this down along the edge of my fabric, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set it on number 1 stitch, which is just a straight stitch, and we're going to move our needle over because we don't want to stitch right on that edge. We need to stitch over about 1/8 of an inch. So we're moving our needle over. We're putting our needle into the fabric, and we're going to stitch. And notice I didn't do that part of it because I want you to see the steps. So don't worry that I haven't done that part over there. We're going to start from this point and go forward, and we're going to just straight stitch it. Now, what you don't want is your stitch length to be really long in this case. And if you have really fine fabric, make that stitch length a little bit shorter than normal. But the Bernina starts off at a 2.2 stitch length, which is a really nice setting for doing this kind of work. So there we go. And notice I'm not going to do any back stitching. I don't need to in this step. So what I've done using that guide, I've gone ahead and stitched from there to the end of my fabric. We're going to cut that off right there. I'm going to trim up my fabric. Remember, I'm only doing a part of the hem because this is for demonstration purposes. So the next thing I'm going to do, I have all this fabric above, and what I end up with is a little rolled hem. So what we have to do is we have to go along this edge and trim away our extra fabric. And we're going to cut right up to our stitching. And I can just put my little pair of scissors in here, and I can hold that down. Now, if you feel like that's a scary way to cut, you can always do it this way too. See how I can put, but you have to put your fingers in between the fabric and get, there you go. So see how that worked? See how we've trimmed the fabric down to our stitching? The next part we're going to do is we're going to go over to the iron. I'm going to just trim this off so it's not in our way. So remember, we started off with a pressed fold. We've now done our stitching and then we've trimmed. So we're going to go over to the iron. And this is really simple because all we're going to do is right on that line, we're going to fold that up as tightly as we can. And the first couple of times you do this, it might not come out this tiny, but you just keep on practicing and it will. So I folded that up now and it's ready to go, and we're ready for our last set of stitching. So we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to put this back under here again. We're going to put our needle down in here. And now, if you have a beginning and an end, you might want to go ahead and do your back stitching. And then we're going to go ahead along here and stitch. And back stitch. And we're going to trim our threads away. If you've been around me very long at all, you know I'm always a big proponent of getting those threads trimmed away. Now look at that. See, there's a double layer stitching right there, but then look at it on this side, how nice and neat and even that is. And that number 5 foot is part of the key, but if you don't have the number 5, you can always line up your fabric. Let's try the number 20 foot if you don't have something with a guide like that. Let's see what the number 20 foot, how you would do that. So what I have done, the setup of your machine is the key here. Remember that, setup of the machine. So now what I'm gonna do, and what if I wanted to make a bigger, wider hem, like a jean hem? So I moved my needle all the way over to the right-hand side, and I'm using the inside of the foot as my guide for my fabric. See how I'm doing that? I'm going to sew that. There we go. And see, look at that. Now I can trim again. See how I'm trimming that right up to the stitching. Yes, there's a little bit of fabric, but if I trimmed it any further than what I'm doing right there, then your stitching would pop out. So this is for a little bit bigger hem. Say, again, you wanted to do a pair of jeans. So this will give you an idea of how much you can do. Because usually when we're hemming jeans, we have way more than we need fabric-wise. And then we'll go over to that iron and press that back up. I'm not going to go to the iron this time. You saw me do that already once. And now get that under there. Using the edge of my fabric again. Now I want to point out something. When I first started, I didn't get it pushed right in the right spot, and so I went off, and that can happen. And that is not the end of the universe, because we have these wonderful things called seam rippers. And all I have to do is take my seam ripper and remove the stitching to right there. And then I can come back here and match up my stitching. So, there we go. Finish up where we're getting to the other hem, which is making the fold act funny. And look at that. Nice, neat hem. Also a double rolled. This one, the stitching's there and there. And that happens when you do a bigger rolled hem. It's not as obvious, obviously, on the tinier rolled hem. So depending on which way you want it to look, you can do this version or that. And I'm sure that you may have some questions, and if you do, don't hesitate to ask. We have plenty of response and questions available on YouTube. And the machine I'm using today is a Bernina 335. So the Bernina 335 is a wonderful sewing machine. It comes with that wonderful number 5 foot that I was just showing you. And we have some deals going on it, so I thought I'd mention it. So I hope that that helps you to be able to figure out how to do a rolled hem. And we are online at universityofsewing.com, or you can reach us by phone at 812-323-2665. Don't hesitate to call us. I'd love to help you figure out your next project. Have a great day, everybody.